first and foremost, what's a Delaware statutory trust?
You really could think of them as a real estate investment trust, but it's specifically designed to capitalize on using a 1031 exchange, which many of your clients and investors may be familiar with. But the 1031 exchange is a section of the tax code that allows for basically being able to defer taxes if you sell one of your properties, and being able to do that through a specific investment trust or fund, if you will.
Gotcha. So when you sell, essentially, when you sell an investment property here in the state of California or anywhere, you can redirect the capital generated from that sale into a DST, is what I'm sort of hearing.
Yeah, exactly. And so you would then be a fractional owner of a Delaware statutory trust, and the trust is what is the entity that actually would own the property or properties that ultimately is being invested. And it also allows for individuals to pool assets together as a group instead of it being a single real estate investor making a single investment. You're able to have multiple investors involved.
And how would a vehicle like that benefit investment property owners, for example, here in the Bay Area?
Yeah, great question. I think there's three main points that I'd like to hit on this particular topic. The number one really would be taxes. I mentioned it prior in the 1031 exchange. Utilizing a DST can be a powerful option for real estate investors in the Bay Area, or really, in California across the board, to defer taxes on their investment real estate that they have sold or are planning to sell. And considering the massive appreciation of real estate values over the last decade, deferring capital gains and the depreciation recapture, which is something that real estate investors are probably all too aware of as well when they sell their properties, you're able to do that through a 1031 exchange, and that's very appealing. The second would be diversification. So many investors these days are looking to diversify their real estate holdings due to that appreciation in value, or simply looking to get out and diversify outside of California in terms of where they're trying to have their investments located. And going through a DST allows for clients and investors to replace that property over multiple geographic locations. And then the last one would be passive ownership. So DSTs are a passive ownership structure, and this could be especially appealing to investors, that are tired of dealing with tenants, termites and toilets and
Stuff.
Yeah, just the ongoing day-to-day management of being a real estate investor. And also it could potentially make passing their wealth to the next generation a bit easier to handle as well.
Gotcha. So essentially what I'm hearing is if you own an investment property or a batch of them, you can 1031 into a fund, essentially a diversified, let's call it a REIT for lack of a better term.
Yep.
And instead of paying the capital gains tax on the sale from whatever you've gained on the property, however long you've owned it for, you can basically offset cap gains, diversify your funds, and remove yourself from having to manage any active properties.
That pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is. It just depends, I guess, on the individual investor and how much they want to be involved in the process.
Sure.
But ultimately, if an investor is selling a property and they still want to have ongoing management of the property, but let's say, they're looking to diversify outside of California, part of the 1031 exchange process is you need to match up value for value. So if you sell $1 million property, you need to find $1 million to buy to take full advantage of the 1031 and deferred capital gains tax. And if you're going outside of California, well, real estate property is valuable, so you might end up only finding a property.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with the 200,000? That, to avoid the capital gains on that, that is also a situation where a DST could come into play, where you found 800,000 of a replacement property that
Got it.
you're going to stay managing, day to day or more actively involved, but you can then use a DST to place the second, or the remaining $200,000 and not have the tax ramifications for not replacing the full value of the original sale.
I'm honestly shocked that more people don't use this. I can't, like I said in our original phone call discussing this, I've been aware of DSTs for probably the last 5 or let's say 4 to 5 years. And essentially every single time I share it with a person selling a home or an investment property, like this is an option that is available to you. The numbers always make complete sense. Like there hasn't been a single instance where somebody goes, I'm really just like, you're saving 25% essentially that you would be giving back as in taxes and different fees and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. If the client doesn't need the cash and it's really more of a investment decision around selling a property that they may have already fully depreciated, used all their depreciation for tax purposes, or it's not cash flowing as well, or perhaps the area didn't turn out as good of an investment geographic location as one would have hoped or thought when they originally made the property, the investment. Those would be, reasons why someone might want to change that investment, sell it, and then replace it with something else. And that's where that 1031 into a DST would come into play.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. As far as timeline goes, like how does the sequence of this sort of take place? Obviously, from the real estate side, we have clients with investment properties that are looking to do things with. What's sort of the sequence of events that happens to execute on a strategy like this?
Yeah, so there's 3 main steps to be aware of in this sequence. The first of which is you have to sell the property. So that's where you would be able to come in there, Tim, and do what you do, work your magic to be able to get that, to move that property, right, and get that value, unlock that value from, for the client. Then the second one, and this is a pretty important one as well, is to take advantage of the 1031 exchange. The client can never receive the proceeds of the original sale. So it needs to go to the money needs to go to a qualified intermediary, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's basically an escrow account.
Yeah.
And it holds the money, and it needs to stay there until you find the replacement property. And that would be the third point, is what do you do with the proceeds, finding that replacement property. And there are 2 timelines within that, and the final step. The first is within 45 days, the investor must identify the replacement property or properties. And then they have one from the close of the original sale. And then the client has 180 days from the close of the original sale to close on the replacement property.
Gotcha.
So 45 days to identify, 180 days to close on the new property.
Gotcha. And so obviously everyone that just listened to that is like, hang on a second, there's these steps, sequences, what if I screw it up, etc., which is where you come in to basically handhold them through this entire process, make sure the capital gets put where it needs to apply by all the rules, etc.
Absolutely. And I would go an extent beyond that, working with clients, being the quarterback of the situation most of the time. Absolutely, helping guide clients through the process and making sure that these deadlines and these, the guidelines are being hit, and we're doing everything that, the IRS asks us
Yeah.
to do above, make sure everything is above board. And that's where, key people to the partnership and to the, executing on this would be, you as the real estate agent or real estate agents involved, myself in terms of orchestrating things from a wealth management and planning perspective, and also investment professionals, to make sure we're looking at the highest quality DST options out there
Awesome.
to find the replacement property in a timely manner.
Unreal. So they're in safe hands the entire step, every step of the way. Unreal.
Yeah.
Matt, man, I really appreciate this. I'm going to plug all your information as well as something to download that sort of talks people through the steps of this entire process. It'll be underneath this video, but if I have your blessing, I would love anyone to be able to directly contact you and ask some of these questions if they want to.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Would love to be able to.